I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore. Cast appalled everybody's shining moment last night. You know, a lot of people worked really hard to get to that place, to have their moment in the sun, and to get their award for the really hard work they did. And it is no mean feat to go through all the stuff you have to go through when you're nominated for an Oscar. It's a gauntlet of devotion that you have to do. And you know, it's a selfish moment to cast all over the whole thing.
Jim Carrey dropped a shocking comment that felt like a verbal explosion aimed at Will Smith and the direction Hollywood is taking. The famous comedy star said the film industry's growing obsession with woke culture is getting completely out of control. According to him, if nothing changes soon, a big collapse in the industry will not just be possible. He believes it will eventually happen.
This war on jokes must end. Will Smith didn't get kicked out of the Oscars for going Ike Turner on Chris, but Kevin Hart got kicked out of hosting it for a joke. Who are these people who say cancel culture isn't a real thing? Just among comedians who've gotten fired and lost gigs for exercising their freedom of expression, the toll is high.
His words were harsh, fiery, and impossible to ignore. The tone of his message was intense and direct, leaving no room for confusion about how strongly he felt. Before we go deeper into this story, make sure you hit the subscribe button and get ready, because this story begins right here today, and it's packed with controversy.
I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore.
There was some question today about if anyone else had walked from the audience and done that, they would have been escorted out by security or maybe even arrested. The police asked Chris if he wanted to file charges. They asked Chris, do you want to file charges? And Chris apparently said no, he did not.
He doesn't want the hassle. I'd have announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million because that video is going to be there forever. It's going to be ubiquitous.
If you're wondering what caused this reaction, Carrey was talking about the shocking moment at the 94th Academy Awards in 2022. During that event, Will Smith walked on stage and slapped Chris Rock in front of millions watching around the world. That single slap didn't just echo inside the Dolby Theater. The moment spread across the internet and quickly became a huge global debate about celebrity ego, power, and the strange double standards inside Hollywood. Carrey didn't hold back when talking about it. He said that if he had been in Chris Rock's place, he would have filed a $200 million lawsuit against Will Smith. He explained that the goal would not be revenge, but setting a clear rule about accountability. For Carrey, the slap itself was only part of the problem. What bothered him more was what it represented. In his opinion, Hollywood has become obsessed with controlling language and behavior. Jokes are sometimes treated like serious offenses, while emotional reactions can be praised as moral actions. Carrey believes the industry has moved so deeply into performative wokeness that comedy itself is now treated like something harmful. Because of that, comedians often feel like they must walk carefully through a cultural minefield just to keep working in today's entertainment climate.
You know, that insult is going to last a very long time. If I want to yell from the audience and disapprove or show a disapproval or say something on Twitter or whatever, you do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words.
No, I agree. I think we all agree on that. I just thought, Jim, that it escalated to that. You know what I mean? That it escalated to that level.
It didn't escalate. It came out of nowhere because Will has something going on inside him that's frustrated, and I wish him the best. I really do. I don't have anything against Will Smith.
Some people tried to defend Will Smith by suggesting that Chris Rock's joke might have pushed things too far. But Jim Carrey strongly rejected that idea. He said that words, especially jokes made during live comedy, are not a reason for physical violence. He reminded people that Rock's comment was an improvised joke, the kind comedians make quickly on stage in the moment. To Carrey, the joke itself was not the real issue. Instead, He believed the bigger problem was Smith's emotional reaction. According to him, whatever exploded on that stage likely had deeper personal reasons behind it that existed long before the award show started. The slap, he suggested, was simply the public moment when private tension finally erupted. His view was very clear and firm. Personal anger does not justify attacking someone in public. If society starts excusing that behavior, it creates a dangerous culture where emotions replace responsibility. In Carrey's opinion, people supporting Smith were not really showing empathy. Instead, they were indirectly approving behavior that should never be acceptable in any workplace, especially one broadcast to millions of viewers around the world.
You know, a lot of people work really hard to get to that place, to have their moment in the sun, and to get their award for the really hard work they did. And it is no mean feat to go through all the stuff you have to go through when you're nominated for an Oscar. It's a gauntlet of devotion that you have to do. And you know, it was a selfish moment that cast a pall over the whole thing.
Carrey also believed Will Smith's action represented something bigger than a single mistake. In his view, the slap showed a deeper problem inside Hollywood itself. To him, the incident looked like a snapshot of an industry that sometimes becomes trapped in its own sense of importance. Carrey argued that many producers, executives, and celebrities now focus more on promoting approved messages and narratives than on entertaining audiences. According to him, messaging often comes first, while audience reaction becomes less important. In the past, movies and shows were built around shared entertainment and connection with viewers. But Carrey feels that those priorities are slowly being pushed aside. Once Hollywood decides on a certain direction, he says it rarely questions itself, even when criticism grows louder. Instead of adjusting, the industry sometimes doubles down and pushes the same ideas even harder. In Carrey's eyes, this is how Hollywood has started forcing what he describes as its woke agenda. The focus moves away from creativity and storytelling and shifts toward image control, public virtue signaling, and demanding ideological agreement across the entertainment world. This situation is exactly the kind of trend that Bill Maher has also criticized openly.
It's time for another edition of one of our favorite departments here on Real Time, explaining jokes to idiots. Where as the public service, I break down jokes for the humor impaired. Not that I have anyone particular in mind. Now, I know we're all sick of talking about the slap, but I'm sorry, one more thing needs to be said. Comedians have been under attack for quite some time, and I need to stick up for my tribe. This war on jokes must end.
Bill Maher believes a growing backlash against comedy is happening because of a very loud activist group that tries to control what comedians are allowed to say. In his opinion, humor is slowly being suffocated by critics who treat jokes like rule violations and comedians like criminals standing trial. Over the last few years, he points out that several comedians have faced cancellation, public shaming, or career damage because of jokes that online critics labeled unacceptable. But Maher keeps returning to one important question. When has comedy ever worked without sometimes offending someone? Offense, he argues, has always been part of humor. Comedy often pushes boundaries, pokes at sensitive topics, and highlights uncomfortable truths through laughter. Maher says that even the safest joke can still upset someone somewhere. Trying to remove the possibility of offense completely does not protect comedy. Instead, it destroys it. When humor is constantly monitored and controlled, the result is not kindness or understanding. It becomes a culture of fear, where creativity slowly stops growing.
And then Chris made what in the business is known as some is like some other joke. He said to Jada Smith, Jada can't wait for G.I. Jane 2, recalling the late 90s movie starring Demi Moore. That's it. That's the joke. You remind me of some other beautiful, buzz-cutted movie star. It wasn't an alopecia joke any more than the one about the chicken crossing the road is about bird flu.
Maher also carefully explained Chris Rock's joke from that night. He pointed out that the joke never directly mocked Jada Pinkett Smith for her medical condition, alopecia. Instead, The joke compared her shaved head style to the look of the strong soldier character in the movie G.I. Jane. Maher argued that this comparison actually portrayed her as tough and powerful rather than insulting her. In comedy, he explained, context matters a lot. From his perspective, the joke was simply observational humor, not a cruel attack. The audience even laughed at the moment, which suggested that people understood it as a joke. However, Will Smith reacted emotionally instead of viewing the moment through the normal rules of comedy. Maher's conclusion was simple. Intent matters. Comedians should not face punishment when their jokes are later interpreted in ways they never intended, especially in societies that claim to value free expression and different viewpoints.
Not an insult, although insult humor is also a staple of comedy. And in fact, an example of insulting someone's looks was on display that night when Regina Hall said, "We've been dealing with COVID for 2 years. It's been really hard on people." And Amy Schumer said, "Yeah, just look at Timothée Chalamet," and they cut to J.K. Simmons, who made a face a lot like the one Jada would make later on. But that's where it ended. It's called being a good sport, especially when you're a rich celebrity. Let the common people take the piss out of you for 1 stinking minute.
Maher also used J.K. Simmons as an example of how celebrities used to respond to teasing. During one film production, Simmons became the target of playful jokes from the crew. Instead of getting angry, he laughed and continued working without making a big issue out of it. Maher said that attitude shows real confidence and professionalism. Award shows and entertainment events have always included playful roasting, where comedians joke about famous guests. It has long been part of the tradition of these events. Maher's message was simple. Being confident does not mean avoiding jokes. It means understanding the difference between harmless humor and real harm, and having the calmness to laugh along instead of reacting with outrage.
And importantly, Chris's joke was received as funny, as evidenced by the audience and Will Smith laughing. And this is the moment where we got to see a live-action, real-time encapsulation of how cancel culture works. Look at what happens next. Jada shoots her husband a look. Let's slow the tape down to capture this moment. There. Back and to the left. Back and to the left.
The situation also had an ironic detail. At first, Will Smith actually laughed at the G.I. Jane joke. Cameras clearly showed him smiling and enjoying the moment like everyone else in the room. For a brief second, it was just another awards show joke. But then he looked toward Jada Pinkett Smith, and her expression looked serious. Almost instantly, his own reaction changed. The smile disappeared, and he moved from laughing audience member to visibly angry participant. Critics say this moment reflects how cancel culture often begins. It usually does not start with immediate rage. It starts with discomfort. Someone feels a line has been crossed, and then the pressure to punish the person grows quickly. Instead of letting the joke fade away naturally, attention shifts toward making an example of the comedian. The lesson many people see is that humor is allowed only within invisible boundaries that can suddenly change without warning.
Before this moment, Will is laughing because he hasn't yet found out that his original, genuine reaction is wrong and that he should conform to a different view. And he's the one who's being manly? I've seen the same syndrome happen in comedy clubs. Woke hecklers who literally have to wait for the laughter to die down before they yell, "That's not funny!"
Maher continues to warn that the issue goes deeper than simple politeness. In his view, some activists are pushing for complete agreement with their beliefs. Anyone who questions or challenges those ideas can quickly become a target for public criticism, cancellation, or social exclusion. Maher also points out that many of these rules are not based on clear logic or scientific evidence, yet the pressure to follow them remains very strong. Society is often expected to move in one direction together, even if it means giving up independent thinking. Maher believes this kind of forced agreement harms creativity and open discussion. Instead of encouraging understanding, it creates fear. Instead of encouraging debate, it encourages censorship. And people who think differently, speak honestly, or simply laugh at a joke may suddenly face serious backlash.
This war on jokes must end. Will Smith didn't get kicked out of the Oscars for going Ike Turner on Chris, but Kevin Hart got kicked out of hosting it for a joke. Who are these people who say cancel culture isn't a real thing? Just among comedians who've gotten fired and lost gigs for exercising their freedom of expression, the toll is high.
In the end, the entire situation, from Chris Rock's joke to Will Smith's famous slap, highlights the larger tensions inside Hollywood today. Jim Carrey and Bill Maher both suggest that this story is about more than just one dramatic moment. It reflects a major cultural shift happening inside the entertainment industry. Comedy, which once thrived on observation, satire, and playful teasing, is now examined under intense criticism and ideological pressure. Celebrities face constant scrutiny, while the industry itself sometimes doubles down on strict political messaging. According to critics like Carrey and Maher, common sense and audience reaction are sometimes ignored, while Hollywood focuses more on controlling behavior than encouraging creativity. Their warning is direct. When emotions replace intent, humor disappears. When accountability becomes distorted, artistic freedom suffers. The biggest question now is not whether Hollywood will survive, but whether it can find balance again before extreme cultural pressure overwhelms it. That's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.